to discuss the latest developments around the Olympics. Senior editor and writer at SportsMax.tv, Leighton Levy. Pivotal question, Leighton. Is it more costly to host the Olympics in a pandemic as opposed to cancelling it?
Well, it all depends on what angle you're taking from. Good evening, guys. I said, George, always my nemesis wearing a Manchester City jersey.
I don't know why you're wearing that.
No, Leighton?
Yes.
Leighton, they were just killing, George and Mariah were just killing Liverpool on the show. But it's okay, we'll talk about that another time.
That's not true. Leighton, Lance was mounting a weak defense of Liverpool. That's what happened.
He needed your help. But you're one segment late.
All right, but so let's get back to the point. The thing is, as we all know, a lot of money is spent to try to host the Olympics each year, billions of dollars. There is also the whole idea of broadcast rights and, of course, the infrastructure that's put in to host the Olympic Games. Is it cheaper to cancel the games? From a financial standpoint, no, because you're throwing away billions of dollars and you're not getting any return from it. With keeping the games, at least you get back some money from broadcast rights, which you might lose if you don't host the games, because broadcasters invest billions of dollars to get the rights to show those games, because they have their revenues pegged to those rights as well. So you stand to lose more if you don't host the games, because you would have virtually been throwing away billions of dollars. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Isn't that then the reason, Leighton, why the IOC and the officials as administrators of the Olympic Games are bent on ensuring that it happens this summer?
Absolutely. I mean, when you consider, the amount of money spent by broadcasters, of course, the estimated cost of hosting the Olympic Games this year is $15.4 billion, I think, which is cheap compared to, for example, Beijing, that it took them $45 billion to get ready for the Games. But then you're looking at $2 billion of broadcast revenue that you would have to find a way to compensate the broadcasters if you don't host those games. We said it earlier when we spoke earlier this year. The amount of money that's being spent, and especially for broadcast rights, you're going to have to hold games. Nobody's going to throw away that amount of money to not host the games. And of course, then you run the risk of having to face potential lawsuits for not hosting the games when people have invested money in getting the games going. And of course, there's also the whole matter of refunding those people who would have bought tickets for the Olympic Games as well. 7.8 million tickets were put up for sale for the games. 600,000 of those to people overseas. Remember, you're talking about people who would have spent in terms of packages for hotels and of course the tickets for the respective events. You're going to have to find a way to refund them. So you're actually going to end up losing more if you don't host the games, because then not only will you lose the money that you would have already spent, but then you'd have to pay back billions of dollars to compensate those who would have been disenfranchised by not having the opportunity to come to Tokyo to enjoy the games.
Yeah, let's shift a little away from the Olympics now. The JAA's athletics administrators in Jamaica selected Leighton 39 athletes, 20 women and 19 men to represent the country at next month's Athletics World Relays in Poland. Elaine Thompson, Sherika Jackson among the big names on the women's side, while Asafa Powell and Nesta Carter, those veterans, are leading the men's charge. What can we expect from this selection?
It's hard to say, Lance, because one of the realities of it is that many of these athletes are actually going to the games just to get races in. We haven't seen much of them during the course of this season because of the lockdowns and the restrictions that have been placed on sporting events during the course of the first quarter of this year. What you're looking at now is a team that is in many ways uncertain of how it's going to perform. If you look at past form, you would think that the team is a strong enough one to do well, especially given the fact that the United States is not there. But in reality, I don't think many of the athletes, of the 39, Natalia White would probably have the most races, running 200 and 200s last weekend, where she ran 11.07 and 11.16, and of course at 22.88 and at 23.28. She probably has the most experience of all the athletes lining up for those relays this year. So there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding how well people will perform, but I don't think they've had enough races for them to even know themselves what kind of form they're in.
Yeah, obviously there are some big names not there. We have been told that Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce opted not to go, so she was not available for selection. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the option was on the athletes whether they wanted to go or not. I think some athletes were thinking of safety first, given the pandemic situation. Johan Blake also is not there. You heard his reaction to whether or not he wants to take the vaccine. You know, for him to travel, he would probably most likely have to either take the vaccine to not be in quarantine once they got into Poland. So there are a lot of issues that come to bear when it comes to who decides to go and decide who to go and what not to go. We're not to go, sorry. But the reality is that a lot of the athletes have the options of pulling out. And I think Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, Johan Blake, and a few others have decided that it's not worth the risk.
We're talking about athletics and we invited you here, but that's not your only area of expertise when it comes to sport, Leighton. Or even for the matter of sport is not just the only thing you do well. You're a strong newsman as well. But let's talk some Liverpool in borrowed time from the producer. I'm suggesting to you, Leighton, that Liverpool's 7-2 defeat to Aston Villa was a portent of a 7-2 season to come. Do you agree?
In a way, yes. Because you saw
Thank you very much, Leighton. All the best to you. It's good having you on the zone.
But Leighton, that's not the discussion. That wasn't the discussion,
That
Leighton.
is the discussion,
It was
lads.
not. It was not.
Mariah, what discussion are we mean having on the zone?
The discussion was whether the 7-2 represented Liverpool having an off day. That was the discussion.
Look, it was a combination of both.
Thank you very much, Leighton. Have a good day. Welcome to the zone. We'll talk next week. All the best.
Take it easy,
He
guys. Have a
has
good
more
evening.
things to talk about, George.
I'm troubling you, Leighton. I'm troubling you.
Leighton, let me remind you that result was the only defeat that Liverpool had in the first 16 games of the season. And it came after they beat Arsenal, Chelsea, and Leeds. And then after that, they didn't lose another game till another 2 months.
Yeah,
there was another 2 months before they lost the game.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting that 7-2 was an off day.
No.
No, look, there are two ways to look at it.
Okay.
Yes.
If you remember the back end of last season, after they came back from the long break,
Yeah.
Liverpool wasn't as defensively solid as they were before. And I think it carried over into the new season because there were signs of, you remember the Leeds game was 4-3. There were some signs early that there were vulnerabilities that were being exposed by the team. The injuries compounded those issues and then totally decimated Liverpool's spine.
Oh, that's the point
and
we
then
made.
we all saw what happened after that.